chefs, welcome back to Chef's Kitchen. We're here in my home kitchen, right? The clock's not lying. It's 11 o'clock at night. This is the only quiet time I can find in my house to actually do this video. So what we will be making in class this week would be biscuits and gravy. So what I'm going to do tonight is actually make the biscuit dough. I'm going to place it into the refrigerator and bake them first thing tomorrow morning. Then I'm going to make a quick sausage gravy. I'm going to walk you through both parts of that so we can have some biscuits and gravy this week. Again, I'm showing you this recipe because we're missing it. What we would be doing in class this week does not mean you have to make this recipe this week. In fact, for tomorrow, or Monday rather, what I'm looking for you to do is just watch this videos, and respond to it, something new that you've learned that maybe you didn't know before. And then you're going to also have to respond to one of your peers in a professional manner, right? So if they picked up on something, maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, but we'll do all that on a professional note. So let's get into the recipe. We are making biscuits, right? Just straight up, no frizzle, frazzle, awesome biscuits, right? Here's the ingredients you will need. Baking soda, baking powder, yes, both chemical leaveners, right? Both chemical leavening agents. So what this means that the biscuits are, they are quick breads, right? Sound like a quiz question? Quick breads. All right, reduced fat, buttermilk, sea salt. So I'm using bread flour. You know why I'm using bread flour? Because that's all I have. I'm out of all-purpose flour, and you can't find it anywhere. And then 2 sticks of unsalted butter. And I believe that is it. Not a lot of ingredients. It gets a little bit messy, but it's not super involved. So I'm going to go ahead and cube up this butter now into little bits, and I'm going to put it onto a plate. I'm going to put the plate into the freezer, because the colder your butter is, the better. And then I'm going to gather the rest of my mise en place. So we'll be back soon. Chefs, where we're at now, cube butter just came out of the freezer. It was probably only in there for 5 minutes. That's pretty much enough time. You just want to make sure it's really, really cold. It's not melting at all. It's not warm in my house right now, so we're gonna go with it. Okay, you see the size cubes that I made, right? Now let's talk about some alternatives. I'm using bread flour, for instance. Highly suggest that you use some all-purpose flour. Okay, bread flour is going to make for like a chewier kind of consistency. Not really ideal for biscuits, but again, we're improvising here. All right. If you do not have buttermilk, you could mix in regular milk, just regular whole milk. But I would add in about a half a tablespoon, maybe 1.5 teaspoons of white distilled vinegar into the milk. Kind of makes the lactic acid happen. Okay, so sub in milk, regular milk if you don't have buttermilk, and yeah, just try to make these at home. Again, this is just a suggestion. If you don't have these ingredients, you can obviously make something else. Another thing, while I'm cutting the butter into the flour with a fork here. Another thing you can do, or what I'd like you to do this week, is we're gonna go down to making just one video. Okay, we're gonna have my video once a week, basically doing a recipe that we will be doing in class. I'd like you to comment on that video and make sure you watch it, and then the other 2 days of that week will be you working on your video and submitting your recipe, right? And then day 4, I'm actually planning on having you guys comment and respond to some of each other's videos. If you're open to that. If you're not, we will discuss, okay? And then finally, the end of the week, just because it's an odd day, just like as if we were in school, we'll probably have to read an article and write a summary on that article, okay? And that's pretty much how this is probably going to go. I'm hoping for the next couple of weeks. So rather than you guys trying to hustle around to the store to buy ingredients and all that stuff, I figure we can at least limit the videos down to once a week. All right, so this is what I'm doing right now. I'm taking my cube butter and I'm cutting it into my flour, right? What I mean when I say that is I'm making the two separate ingredients become one. It should turn into almost like a wet sand, or not quite, like a dry wet sand, if you will. It should look like little peas of butter by the time I'm done this. But it's really, really hard to do with just one hand. So I'm going to get in here and get to it. And then I'm going to add my buttermilk, which I've already measured out, into the mix as well. And we're going to roll out the dough. Cue the music. I don't have any music. Alright, this part, I'll just put my hands in there. It's sometimes better to squeeze and break up the little pieces of butter if the fork isn't doing the trick. If you have a pastry blender at home, that is always ideal to do, because you don't want the warmth of your hand to adjust the consistency of your butter. And the reason why we want chunks of butter and why we want cold butter is because we don't want the butter to melt at all while we're doing this. That cold butter, there's little layers of butter in between the layers of flour, is what creates that flaky biscuit-like consistency, which is what we're looking for here. So I'm going to work this a little bit more. I'm almost there before I can add my wet, which is my buttermilk. You could substitute lard if you don't have butter. You can substitute, I don't know if I never made these with margarine before, but I thought about making these with lard just because I have some, but I went the traditional butter route. I'm still hoping to take our second quiz of this marking period. Let's talk about that for a second. The second quiz, I'm gonna have to look at the calendar and see exactly when this marking period ends. I'll get as close to the end as we can so we have time to put in more of those Google questions. But those Google questions are gonna act as a study guide for you guys. So basically, all the answers are there for you in the Google questions, the attendance questions. As long as you're answering those and you're showing up for class, I think you should be good to go for the quiz. All right, I'm kind of where I want to be now. I'm gonna bring the bowl over to you so you can see. It almost turned a different color, almost like a beige pale color now, right? When I hold it, it kind of holds its shape a little bit, but it's not really wet sand. Maybe that was a bad analogy. Okay, the little peas of butter are still in there, which is good, which is what I want. So So now I'm going to go ahead, pour my buttermilk right into the center. All right, maybe starting with a spoon, you can kind of start bringing the wet into the dry. All right, you don't really want to overwhelm it too much, but it does happen kind of quickly. It's not something you really want to knead very much at all. You don't want to work it. We do not want to develop the gluten for this bread. All right, it's quite the opposite. I think this is a little dry, so I'm going to add a little bit more buttermilk, to it. Maybe another half a cup actually. It's really dry. I think my recipe was a little bit off. And I will attach recipes to the assignment as well. You can follow the recipe along just like I'm doing it here. Or, like I said, just submit something else that you would like to make. It's in your fridge, hopefully breakfast related. And we got another week or two of breakfast before we're done. Now it's starting to get a little bit more like the consistency I want. It's still crumbly, okay? It hasn't come together as a dough yet, which I don't really want it to. I want those flaky crumbles. You're going to take a little leap of faith here. Just trust me. This will all make sense in the end. All right, still just a tad dry. All right, try not to knead it too much, but I'm also trying to get it to come together. I think that's it. That's about as far as I'm gonna go. Now, I'm gonna get out my rolling pin. I should already have that done. All right, hopefully you have a rolling pin at home. If not, use some sort of bottle of olive oil, bottle of wine, will work just as well. Only biscuit cutter I can find. My daughters are gonna love them. So, let's take a quick look. All right, my dough is about 1/2 inch thick. All right, from top to bottom. And in the top here, you can see the cracks. That's okay, that's normal. You see little pieces of butter still within the dough. That's good. That's what you want. Okay. I'm gonna just cut these out. You don't have to use a cookie cutter at all or a biscuit cutter. You could just cut squares with a knife. All right, I'm just going straight up and down. I don't want to go too much with the twisting and turning and all that stuff, because then you seal the edges closed and that's just not a good look. You don't want to do that. Doesn't help them rise in the oven. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the rest of these out. Then I'm going to baste the top with either a little bit of buttermilk or a little bit of melted butter, a combination of both. It's really whatever kind of mood you're in. Okay, it's okay if they touch. You actually want them to touch because they'll help each other to rise. The extra scraps that I have here, all right, I'm just going to start kind of working back together. They will not be as good as the first 5 that I rolled out, but they'll still be delicious and very edible. So again, I'm going to roll them out to about 1/2 inch thick. Get as many cuts as I can. This looks for me, I'm going to get about 2 more. My sous chef Ryan is sleeping. Sorry you're missing her. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next time, she can help us again. Earlier today, I was doing another video for my Foods 1 class, and my house was impossible to work in. 2-year-olds, 4-year-olds, dogs barking, trash cans falling downstairs. It was an event. So I decided to wait till the kids were asleep to do your video. Sorry you missed the animal house. So, let me just show you one last time what they look like. See how they're all touching, right? They're gonna help each other rise a little bit. And I'm gonna baste the top. These are just scrap pieces over here. I want to baste the tops with a little bit of butter and buttermilk, but I can do that first thing in the morning before I pop them in the oven. Now I want to put these back in the fridge. I suggest you do the same thing when you make yours. Put them in the fridge for at least 30, 45 minutes, okay? I'm gonna let mine sit in the fridge overnight. But you want this butter, right, to re-solidify and actually get really, really cold again before you pop them in the oven. And the oven's gonna be hot. It's gonna be about 425, maybe 450. See what kind of mood we're in the morning. All right, took up enough of your time. Thank you for your attention, and we will talk more soon. All right, chefs, here we are. Back in the kitchen. Unfortunately, I had to fast forward some of this. I already baked the biscuits. I brushed the tops with some buttermilk and some butter. All right, and I actually did put the broiler on towards the end just for a minute to kind of brown the tops a little bit. They turned out pretty good. Now we have our sausage gravy that we got to make, right? It's the last part of this. So I'll try to make this as brief as possible. It's not a lot of ingredients, not very involved. So what I did here was I took a 1/2 pound of breakfast sausage, and I basically cooked it down until there's no more pink anymore, and I rendered all the fat out of the sausage, right? That word render is a new vocab word for us probably, but it means to melt the fat. right? So we melted the fat out of the sausage, and I also added an additional tablespoon of butter just to make sure there's not enough fat for the roux. All right. So now that we have our fat rendered, we can make our roux, which is actually what's going to be our thickening agent for our gravy, basically. I don't want to get too involved with bechamel. Okay, that is our milk that we also put in our microwave just for a minute to kind of warm it up a bit. All right, Ryan, say good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so Ryan's going to help us out here. So it looks like it could use a touch more fat to me, but I'm actually going to roll with it and you know, see where it really gets us.
Yeah.
Let's turn it heat up a little bit higher. All right, Ryan, can you do me a favor?
What?
Can you put in half of this flour into here?
Sure.
I got a 1/3 cup of flour. Ryan's going to put in half of it. That's good. I said half. Okay, or Ryan's going to put in all of it. All right, sweetie, do you know what half means?
What?
It means you put in, you divide the amount of the entire container by 2. So you just put in half of the amount. All right, and you're going to see this is going to, flour here is going to now absorb all this fat, right? Which is our sausage, our rendered fat from the sausage meat, and also our additional tablespoon of butter. All right, so we want to go ahead and cook this, and you can kind of see the little coating on the sausage itself. All right, it's gonna get exciting in a minute, Ryan. Okay, I'm gonna cook that coating a little bit. Pan should get really nice and dry, and that coating on our sausage now is actually our roux. R-O-U-X. Roux. Okay. And the roux is actually going to act as our thickening agent. It's what's going to turn our milk-like consistency into our milk into a gravy, right? And just a touch more flour. And you really want to cook this roux out, just for a little bit to get that raw flour taste out of the way. You don't want that. High heat now. Okay, Ryan. I think it's good to go. Let's go ahead and add our milk, Ryan.
Just a little bit?
All of it.
Okay. Ooh.
Add about half. Okay, let's see if we can do half. Oh my god. Let's stop there. That's about half.
Okay.
And then you get the whisk and stir.
Whoa.
You want Daddy to do?
I just can't see. That's
Okay.
right. I get over here.
Careful, don't touch anything hot, right? And this is going to thicken
No, this is
Very-
really thick.
very quickly because our pan's nice and hot, and you kind of see where our milk turns into a loose gravy.
What is that?
See how thick that is? It's almost like a paste at this point.
Daddy, tell me
Now
what
we're
is
going to add
that?
the rest of our milk. Okay, Ryan?
Daddy, what is that?
This is our gravy.
Yeah.
If you haven't met a 4-year-old before, they say that about everything. They think everything is yuck. Everything is slime. Everything is
Slime.
yucky, right? You don't really like anything, do you?
No.
You don't like food. So unless there's sugar in it. And crunchy chips. Is that your diet? All right, come on, help me out here. Stir, Ryan, a little bit more. All right, now you can see we got our gravy, right? It's getting thick. Once it comes to a boil, that's when the thickening agent activates, and it starts to actually really to work. If it gets too thick on you, add a little bit more milk, or heavy cream if you have any. Would be a good idea too. All right, lastly, I'm gonna go ahead and season this with a little bit of salt and pepper, and then pour it on top of my biscuits, and I'll show you the finished product, okay? to season the taste. A little dash of salt, pepper. It is still significantly thick. So we're gonna add a bit more milk. So roux. Roux's new vocabulary we learned today. Milk or fat and flour mixed together. Fat and flour mixed together, right? Equal parts fat and flour. And then the other vocab word I want you to know is render. We rendered the fat out of the meat. We melted to melt the fat out of something, okay? So that's that. Our gravy is ready. I'm gonna go ahead and take a heart-shaped biscuit here. And I'm gonna give myself a spoon or a ladle. How about this half cup measure? And pour it right on top of my biscuit. All right, feel free to serve this with some fried eggs if you want. Whatever you are in the mood for. That is it. Lovely.